Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our first plenary. My name is Amy Robichaud. I'm the CEO of Mothers Matter Canada, and it's my privilege to be chairing this panel this morning. This year's conference theme, Inclusive Collaboration for Collective Impact, sets the stage for a meaningful conversation over the next couple days. Mothers Matter Canada and the examples of Mothers Matter Canada follows the examples of matrilineal leadership that have been left to us and continue to guide us from the Coast Salish people whose territory we're on today. And this leadership is one that is collaborative, that acknowledges the role of all genders, that ensures that decisions are made by the community and in the interest of the community. And in this session, we're going to reflect on how we can continue to do that and to honor that level of collaboration in our work. So we're going to be reflecting on how to best engage with and support the many community-based organizations that also play a crucial role in settlement and the integration of newcomers in Canada. We're going to be privileged today to hear directly from leaders in organizations as they share their insights into this work, the challenges they've encountered in collaborating with the settlement sector, as well as the promising practices they've developed that leverage the collective expertise of all of us in this room, ensuring that our collaborative efforts create the greatest possible impact, which, given all of our funding news, we need more desperately than ever. This plenary wouldn't be possible without the support of our sponsor. Nous apprécions l'appui du commanditaire de cette séance plénière from Pre-Arrival Canada and the YMCA of Greater Toronto. We have a short video of theirs to share with everybody today.
There are so many questions before moving and immigrating to Canada.
How do I find employment information? What career opportunities are in demand?
Housing, childcare, education, employment, these are also important to your life. You must find the answer before you immigrate to Canada.
Prearrivalcanada.ca can help you find the answers before you immigrate to Canada. Prearrivalcanada.ca offers multiple free programs with just one easy registration. These pre-arrival programs offer free information
to help with living and working in Canada by registering for settlement and employment programs,
and help with getting your education and work experience recognized in Canada.
To connect with employers and mentors before arriving in Canada.
If you've been approved to receive free pre-arrival services, visit prearrivalcanada.ca to see which programs may be right for you. Prearrivalcanada.ca and all programs available are funded by Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada.
So we have the immense honor to share the room today with four individuals who are walking the talk when it comes to the impact that we're all striving for. Their bios are detailed and impressive, and they can be found in the program or on Feedloop, so I'll invite you to visit their bios there. But for now, I'd like you to join me in welcoming our first speaker on the panel, Dave Kerr, who's the Director of LGBTQ+ refugee programs at the Metropolitan Community Church in Toronto. He'll be speaking with us about bridging the gaps, advancing LGBTQ+ refugee integration.
All right, good morning, everyone. As you just heard, my name is Dave Kerr, and my pronouns are he and him. And I'm proud to represent the Metropolitan Community Church of Toronto, MCC Toronto, as its director for its LGBTQ+ refugee programs. Today, it's a personal privilege to be in your city. This trip actually marks my very first opportunity to come to Vancouver since relocating to Canada. Excuse me. But how cool it is that while I'm stopping by, I'm able to share with you on a topic that is so near and dear to my heart, bridging the gap, advancing LGBTQ+ integration, refugee integration. Now, I came to Canada as a refugee myself in 2018, having fled my country, Jamaica, based on my fear of being persecuted as a member of the community. And I remember how difficult it was for me navigating the space here in Canada. And I remember the many support that I got. And it is for this reason, it is important for me to also pay this work forward to help individuals who are going through their process at this time. Now, a little bit about the organization that I work for, MCC Toronto. We are a faith-based organization which started in 1973, and we have been involved in the work of supporting refugees since 2007, where we operate a refugee support program, and we provide support to individuals who are here in Canada navigating the refugee system and the complexities of the immigration system, also connecting them to support so that they can integrate properly within the community. We've been able to expand our work through our efforts with the Government of Canada as a sponsorship agreement holder. In 2013, we became a sponsorship agreement holder, which allows us the awesome opportunity of not just providing support to persons who are here in Canada, but also persons who are fleeing persecution from their home countries. They're already outside of their countries, and they are looking for help to find a better and safer place to call their home. And so we've been able to do that with the help of many players, and it is for this reason we want to talk a little bit about collaboration. Collaboration in the settlement sector is very important. We collaborate with government agencies, with NGOs, with individuals, permanent residents, Canadian citizens, to really get the work of providing support towards integration for our refugee community. Now, some of the big ticket items that we've been able to provide support around include, for example, the concern about housing, about legal support, about employment, mental health, and so on. And of course, we do understand that even as we provide support, there are many challenges that we come upon. And for this reason, we try to work with community partners to really get the work done. Some of the challenges include, for example, affordable housing. Right now in Toronto, we're seeing where to rent one-bedroom house, it's between $2,400 and $2,600 per month. That's what we're seeing to rent a one-bedroom house. Employment becomes an issue as well. We are seeing also that where it concerns discrimination within the community in terms of getting people connected, individuals are being discriminated on many levels. And so it is for this reason we continue to partner with different players to make sure that we can get the support to our members that's needed. Another area of concern includes providing legal support and mental health support. We have found that in our experience that some of the therapists that our members have been connected with are not competent enough to deal with the unique needs and the challenges of LGBTQ plus individuals. And so one of the ways in which we've been able to really build relationship is to identify individuals with those competency to really help individual refugees along their journey as they deal with the trauma of their past, the trauma of having to relocate to a country that they are now navigating and having to rebuild their lives. Now, with all these challenges, we have an opportunity to really overcome them. And I really just want to commend the organizers for this conference for the amazing work that you have done in terms of gathering us all here today, because it gives us an opportunity as individuals to really connect and learn about the different things that are happening and ways in which we're able to support refugees. We're able to provide culturally competent service and support to refugees even as they navigate and be integrated within the community. One of the things MCC has done as well is that where housing is concerned, we have been able to get the support of realtors and volunteers to help our members get connected to affordable housing, get connected also to landlords who may be willing to rent at a more affordable rate. We also get support around mental health, like I said before, and where legal support is concerned, we've been able to get the support of our attorneys who have a very deep understanding of the issues which touch and concern the community. And so all in all, we recognize that there is a promising practice for us to work together, to collaborate in very meaningful ways in order to make refugee integration a success. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. I'd now like to introduce Saifullah Mohammed, who's the founder and board chair of the Rohingya Center of Canada, for his conversation with us around grassroots allyship.
Distinguished guests, respected organizer, and fellow advocates, particularly who made me to be here today, the Immigration Partnership World Law. Good morning, bonjour, assalamu alaikum. It is an honor to be here today from a very small community-based organizations. And you can consider, is it a part of collaboration? It is a part of recognition. It is a part of inclusiveness through this conference. I have the privilege of sharing a vision today here, one rooted in resilience, collaborations, and unyielding belief of the power of community-based organizations, or we can call grassroots-level community organizations. As a very small organization for us, like the Rohingya Center, based in region of Waterloo in Ontario, people call us grassroots-level community organization. When people ask questions about how you sustain the grassroots-level community organizations, personally, my answer is, we are still in grass, we are not rooted, not yet grassroots-level community organizations. The theme of this plenary is inclusive collaboration between community-based organization and in settlement sectors. It's more than just a concept for us. For many of us in this room, it reflects the kind of work we do every single day. It is call to action that challenge us to think beyond the traditional approaches, to envision new pathways, to uplift and empower newcomer, refugees, and marginalized communities. Today, I will speak not only from my experience as a co-founder of the Rohingya Center, but from a shared history, one upon generation, continent, pursuit of dignity and justice. The story of Rohingya people, I think most of the settlement agencies came to know recently that there is a community called Rohingya coming as a refugee from different countries. And I hope after these plenary sessions or today and tomorrow we'll meet each other and introduce each other. The Rohingya Center is very small example of what can happen when community-led initiatives are supported, empowered, and allowed to thrive. We established in 2022 with the hope that our community have been living in Canada more than 18 years. Nobody knows who the Rohingya are. And when our people come here, they have different, every settlement agency, they have the same perspective that refugee people come in with their own challenges. But the community are our community, especially when they come to Canada, they have different challenges, which is unknown to many people, many settlement agencies. Rohingya doesn't have a written and a script language. That's why we don't have professional interpreters. One of the main barriers people face, every community face language barrier, but Rohingya face written language, a script, and also professional interpreters. When they don't have interpreters, they face a lot of challenge. The service providing agencies, they face huge challenge to provide services to them. And as a community members, we don't have a professional interpreter because the Canadian government, Canadian language system doesn't recognize the Rohingya language. So we just established the Rohingya Center 2 years ago with a community initiative without any other support. First thing, we created a network with the settlement agencies and other language providing agencies. How can we create a language test for the Rohingya community to be certified interpreters? So now that test is developed, and settlement agencies who are working with the Rohingya refugee client are calling the Rohingya Center to have their interpreters. In many ways, the settlement sector has long been in critical lifeline for the newcomer to Canada, offering essential services and supports. However, for these services to truly be effective, they must be rooted in understanding of the unique needs, experience, and aspiration of the communities they serve, where the community-based organizations play a very important role. Despite their deep-rooted connections to the trust with the communities, grassroots-level community organizations are often perceived as a less value compared to mainstream organizations. The perceptions persist even though mainstream institutions frequently rely on the grassroots-level community organizations based on language barriers, cultural nuances, language support especially, which are critical, effective service, very critical in effective service delivery. For instance, language and culture barrier that mainstream organizations cannot address directly, but the community-based organizations or cultural organizations can be the bridge for them to serve better. As the Rohingya Center for us, we have been seeing firsthand the impact of inclusive collaborations. We work alongside settlement agencies in our regions, but now all over Canada, most of the settlement agencies, to ensure that services are culturally responsive, because most of the Rohingya peoples come in directly from refugee camp with trauma and so many health issues. Our center serves as a cultural and linguistic bridge, ensuring these services are delivered in a way that's not only effective, but empowering. One of the key lessons we have learned in the collaborations, the collaboration must be intentional and rooted in trust. Community-based organizations like ours have the lived experience and cultural expertise on the table. When the mainstream settlement agencies, the policymaker recognize the value of expertise of the grassroots level community organizations, we can co-create a solution that are not only inclusive, but also sustainable. Of course, collaboration is not without its challenges. One of the significant hurdle we all grassroots level community organizations face is the soil nature of funding, which shouldn't be mentioned here, and service delivery. Too often, community-based organizations are expected to compete with the limited resources. Despite the fact that our goals are aligned with the mainstream organizations, this competition can hinder collaboration, in some cases create a duplication of efforts. But challenge also presents opportunities for everyone. The pathway to prosperity today itself is a powerful example what can be achieved when we come together. With a purpose, by fostering a network of collaborations, we can break the soils and create more coordinated and inclusive sectors. To this do effectively, we need to reimagine. We approach collaborations it is not enough for community-based organizations to be seen as a mere service provider. They must be recognized as an equal partner who bring valuable insight, cultural knowledge, and grassroots connections to the settlement ecosystem. This requires systematic change. We need funding models that incentivize collaborations, not competitions. We need policies that are informed by the lived experience of newcomers, refugees, and marginalized communities. And we need a shift in mindset that from top-down service delivery to one on mutual partnership and co-creations. Inclusive collaborations require the active involvement of the government at all levels in Canada. We are fortunate to have robust settlement sector supported by federal, provincial, and municipal level. However, there is still much work to be done to ensure the government policies and funding framework reflect the realities on the ground. For example, the Rohingya Center, as we serve, work to support our community. We have found that existing settlement programs don't always address the specific need of refugees coming to Canada, who have experienced severe trauma, displacement, and so on. We advocate for policies that are flexible, culturally responsive, and informing the voice of the community we serve. As we look, the future pathway forward is very clear. It is if we build a truly inclusive settlement sector, we think that we must prioritize collaborations that is grounded in equity, cultural competence, and recognize unique contributions the community-based organizations bring to the table. The Rohingya Center is just an example. It can be achieved once we come together. But there are countless of other community-based organizations struggling across Canada that are doing really incredible works to support some newcomers, refugees. These organizations deserve to be recognized, supported, and empowered as a partner in the settlement sector by all of us. In closing, I want to leave you with this thought. True inclusion is more about providing services. It is all about creating spaces where every voice is heard, every culture is valued. Every day, whenever we go any conference or any meetings, we always listen, we always say, we always hear about this thing. It is about creating spaces where every voice is heard. The work we do is not easy, but very essential. And together, through these inclusive collaborations, we can create a future where every one of us can come together and call Canada a safe place for the refugees, newcomer, or marginalized communities. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Saifullah. Before we move on to our next couple of speakers, just a couple housekeeping notes, as I do some housekeeping. The first is, remember that Slido is open, so if you have questions for our panelists, please add your questions to that. The second is that our final panelist's presentation is bilingual, so if you would like to head out and grab some headphones so that you can listen to both in the appropriate language, this is your opportunity to do so. I'm thrilled to introduce our next speaker from the panel, Siobhan Barker, who's the Community Care Director at Hogan's Alley Society, and she'll be addressing anti-immigrant housing supports and services.
Hello everyone, bonjour. Je suis très contente d'être ici avec vous aujourd'hui.
Very pleased to be
Don't worry,
here with you
we'll be
today.
speaking English shortly. My pronouns are they and she. I guess I'm the first one with slides today, yes? Was this the... This is the clicker?
Yeah.
I should let you know, first off, that the slides will be available at a later time, so if it goes a little too quickly, not to worry. I should also mention that I'm so pleased to be invited here today. I almost feel like the invitation was an indication that we are involved in settlement services, which was a bit of a news in terms of we just get so embroiled in doing the work that not all the time things are given headings to contextualize the work that we're often engaged in. So a little bit about Hogan's Alley Society and perhaps why it came a bit as a surprise to be invited here today, as settlement is not at the forefront of how we would describe ourselves and contextualize our engagement with community. So one of the pieces that we do as we engage with community is that we take the time both to do land acknowledgements, but also to engage and acknowledge our ancestors, our African ancestors. And so the slide before you is just that. This is an age-old tradition to do libations, and as we mentioned, those can be either wet or dry, and dry in the sense of we're offering up our words as acknowledgement. And so this is something that we do as a point of practice to welcome and acknowledge the efforts of the ancestors and their guiding wisdom that has allowed us to be here in community today. I'm going to jump ahead because I realize that, again, and if we could invert on this prompter thing, that would be helpful for me, or bring the size up on the one on the left, that would be great. I speak it and it happens. It's so fabulous. So, Hogan's Alley, for those that are not from the area, is an area in Strathcona that some 50 plus years ago, through the process of racism and urban renewal, the Georgia Viaduct was placed in the area, and it displaced the Black community, the only Black community that really had formed over this time in the Vancouver area. And this displacement has contributed to the lack of visibility that's often mentioned, a lack of cohesion, and really, one can also say a lack of generational wealth, because once the displacement took place, racism exists. People were not welcomed in other areas. Perhaps if there was home ownership, there was no longer the opportunity for home ownership as they moved to other areas. And the cycle sort of continues to this day. So at Hogan's Alley Society, we have a number of programs that do very intentionally connect with settlement services. I'm identified as the Director of Community Care. That means that I'm responsible for our housing support program, our cultural support program, our land stewardship program, and our mentorship program. Yes, it is just that long and that many titles to it, so you can understand perhaps the size and scope of us. We are sometimes quite under-resourced in the sense of numbers of staff that are engaged in any one thing, but the intentionality is there as we develop and as we grow. So the housing support program is really intended to connect with folks where they're at. This is often a newcomer immigrant population, and we look to address various basic needs, financial considerations, and helping them to navigate various structural systems around them. This is where the interconnectedness happens, because we are not going to be the ones offering the full extent of the wraparound services that are available or that might assist in moving into more stable housing, more stable employment, education, and such. This is why it's so important that we connect. So much like our bingo that told us who has eaten a beaver tail, or who has a tattoo, which was something that was played as an icebreaker last night. We need a new bingo, one that tells us who we can connect with so that our time is maximized in best serving the clientele that we're also committed to engaging with on a daily basis. So some of the challenges in relation to our support for newcomers and immigrants is really, well, let me back up a moment. So our Housing Solutions program, our Cultural Support program, and we also instituted a Black student homestay program. And so some of the challenges in relation to meeting those needs is that not all of the services that our clients are needing are actually accessible to them. Perhaps they don't have the necessary status to be able to access services that are specific for refugee or specific under other headings. Oftentimes we are engaging with the people that one might say fall through the cracks in terms of their designation not aligning with the services that are available without cost. So we tend to be a bridge, if you will. So someone might come to us, let's say they've come in on a closed work permit, and for whatever reason, that they're not able to follow through with that work permit. Now they're not able to access any kinds of supports. A particular family that I have in mind as I'm giving this anonymous example had this happen to them. And, the wife inside of that family came, quite close to giving birth. And, with their 2 children and her having an open work permit and his having a closed work permit, it became quite the situation in terms of aligning how best to support them with the services that were available under the heading of settlement, which I'm sure you're very familiar with, and I know that there's a few other sessions in our time together that will dig more deeply into addressing this. So, yes, you've had a chance to read the slides. Lovely. I can just move forward. So these are some of what we've termed the anti-immigration or anti-immigrant practices and policies, things that have contributed to restricting or limiting people's ability to have their needs met once arriving in relation to those individuals that we're, or families that we're working with. The restrictive work permits that I've mentioned, the restrictive access to the wraparound services, credit checks in relation to housing, requirements of tax returns, requirements of previous years of occupancy, electronic forms that have mandatory restrictive fields so you can't move forward in the application. So we work in relation to these barriers to advocate, whether it's with large-scale or small-scale housing providers, working with agencies such as BINTA Financial to establish credit histories based on rent payments, supporting folks with job searches and interviews and any kind of prep that can help them access other settlement-related services, and then really just meeting people where they are at with their life skills, with their basic needs, and it says emotional and physical literacy. So I may be titled director, but I may also be sitting there at a medical appointment with someone who needs support and doesn't have family to attend with them. And for whatever reason, perhaps cognitive or in relation to living with disability, may not be able to take in the full breadth of what information is coming at them. So I say this only to give scope to how many of us there are working in my department, and I know how many of you are in this room and working on things as well. So we really do need to connect to move this forward with some success. So this is another of our programs, the Housing Solutions Lab. This was a grand-scale research project to look at solutions in housing, to look at barriers across many, many different sectors of the population, Black population. And it is a report that is available to be sought at another time. At last, to the thank yous. So, thank you so much. And I do hope to connect with you all further. I'm very excited to be here with everyone, and I hope that we'll be able to address some of your questions a bit later.
Thank you, Siobhan. And finally, we have Myriane Ouellette, who is the co-founder and president of the Community Incubator, the outgoing president, Family and Early Childhood Francophone South in New Brunswick, and founder and CEO of O Strategies Incorporated. Myriane's going to be chatting with us about empowering newcomer families and the role of collaborative research and community incubators.
Bonjour, hi everyone. Thank you very, very much for having me today. It is such an honor to speak in front of you, and I'm far as being an expert as you all are in this room, but I'm hoping to be able to share a broader picture of how we're collaborating at a national level in our communities. Oh, I forgot to have to change my slides. There we go. Is it working? There we go. Hey. I'll start in English, and I'll actually deliver my presentation quite bilingually, so it'll be one slide kind of format. So if you do need a headset, please go get it, and if you do have one, keep it ready. So I'm here representing my company, O Strategies, which is a consulting firm. We actually own a social enterprise. So the community services side is the social enterprise side, where we help communities work together for solutions in complex societies. So immigration is definitely one thing that we're working on quite a bit. We have a multicultural team, and we work in communities all over Canada. Recently in New Brunswick with a few of my clients that are here actually running or conducting immigration strategies in lieu of a whole restructuration in those communities, making regions work together as regions and not as municipalities. So it's quite challenging, and this is also quite popular with Francophone communities across Canada, because they all need to work together to be able to serve their people. So I'm also representing Famille Petite Enfance Sud, or the agency Early Childhood, the Francophone agency in Southeast New Brunswick, and I'll talk a little bit more about that, and the Community Incubator, which is a newly formed project that we just developed in New Brunswick to help communities solve for complex problems. Alors, le Nouveau-Brunswick est la seule province officiellement bilingue au Canada, ce qui fait en sorte qu'on agit avec le principe de dualité linguistique. Alors, ça veut dire essentiellement que tous les projets, tous les services essentiels doivent être équitables en français et en anglais, ce qui pose beaucoup d'opportunités, mais aussi beaucoup de problèmes. Parce que ce qu'on fait, par exemple, au niveau du domaine de la santé, il y a un hôpital francophone,
well, there's a Francophone hospital in Moncton and an Anglophone hospital in Moncton as well, but the quality is not always the same, and the services aren't always offered equally in both. 32% of the Francophone population in New Brunswick, and I will talk about New Brunswick mainly, but also on a national level when it comes to the Canadian Francophonie. It becomes more of a sales point to attract immigrants in New Brunswick. because we would like to have more Francophone immigrants, and that's the case for all Francophone communities in a minority situation around Canada. This means that we don't always get the same quality of services or the same degree of services that we need to welcome these people and to make sure that they stay in the regions. In New Brunswick, you'll see that the southern east region is more bilingual, and that in the north it's more Francophone. And in the interior, in some coast areas, there are more Anglophone communities. There are many small Francophone communities with support in schools, but this is not enough. That means that Anglophones and Francophones need to work together in order to offer the necessary quality of services. Based on a research conducted, a Guy Légère project, we know that Francophone organizations often don't feel represented in immigration spheres, and that is a problem because we aren't in that element. The other thing is that we see that Anglophone organizations are oftentimes better funded. We also know that since the pandemic,
it amplified social isolation, mental health, strain for newcomers, and there's limited opportunities for community engagement. This is starting to open up a little bit more and more, but it's also increased feelings of isolation, delayed in cultural adaptation, and stifled social network building. And this is especially amplified with Francophone communities that are not in bigger pockets of Francophone immigration, or Francophone areas. And what we've noticed is that the Francophones that did arrive at the beginning of the pandemic are struggling to catch up on these social networks. And we know that in Canada, and this is especially true in smaller communities and rural communities, that the way to good employment and the way to have success is through who you know. Alors, je vais parler un petit peu de famille petite enfance.
So let's talk about early childhood organization, the organization, or the where I just finished some work. This is a best practice for the sector.
For this one, sorry about the translation. So this organization serves families with kids that are from 0 to 8 years old. And the programs that we have basically helps empower families and their communities to find the services that they need. So it starts with screening, assessment, and then home-based intervention, and of course referrals to any of the agencies that needs to happen, whether that be psychology, housing, newcomer services. It could be really anything. And what we're seeing that we have a lot of newcomers enter into these services. There are some gaps in screening and assessment. So there was a study recently just funding with a particular lens on newcomers and immigrant families. So there's gap of awareness of services, or they don't even realize that they do need the intervention. Things like ADHD, things like the autism spectrum, or any other learning disability are not as people that are newcomers or immigrants are not as aware of that those exist and what to watch out for. We all know this, but newcomer families struggle to navigate the systems around them. And but we do know that the families that do receive services reported a lot less stress in their family and improvement on their child's development. So those services are culturally tailored, and we work with we collaborate with the settlement sectors and the ecosystem. I call it the immigration ecosystem, to be able to fill the gaps in our services as much as possible, just like language training, translation, those kind of things. I'm going to skip really fast on these because I think we all know what the challenges are for newcomers, and this is especially true for Francophone newcomers. So mental health, bien sûr la santé mentale qui est une problématique, premièrement au niveau de la sensibilisation, parce que les gens ne comprennent moins ou comprennent pas tout à fait quand on a besoin de ce niveau, puis quand est-ce qu'on peut aller chercher des niveaux de service pour être capable de combler ces défis-là. L'employabilité. Alors, les nouveaux arrivants francophones rencontrent encore plus de défis quand ça vient de trouver un emploi. Premièrement, parce qu'on les promet
First off, because we promise them that they can come to Canada and they'll be able to integrate in this Francophone community. And they have certain expectations as far as that they'll be able to find a job in French. And that's not the case. Most people need to be bilingual. And that's problematic because we need to support them in their skills in order for them to work as a bilingual employee.
So, of course, housing is another challenge. I'm not going to hide it, and we just actually touched on this. And O Strategies actually just completed a lab, which is called Shelter from the Storm, and where we were able to bring together 30 partners in the housing sector, which included the immigration sector, which included the homeless sector as well, to be able to find solutions for this problem, because what we're understanding is that complexity is wide and we need different partners to be able to work on these really tough, sticky challenges. By bringing these people together, we were able to come to, I think, around 8 projects that will be either social enterprise or social innovation projects brought by and with the community. And this is a little bit what the community incubator is focusing on now as well. So we know in terms of housing, discrimination is a big one, increased rent, bad living conditions, and those issues are only exacerbated by the housing crisis we're seeing. So provincial rent caps are definitely helping. New Brunswick just adopted with our new premier, who is a woman, which was great for us. Just adopted a 3% rent cap February 1st, 2025. We need to build awareness with landlords and bring them to the conversation. And that's what the community incubator is hoping to facilitate in the next couple years. The other thing is advocating tenant rights. These newcomers need to know what their rights are, but they need to know how to navigate the system when they need it. So, of course, collaboration remains key. Partnerships enhance capacity, and this is what we know. And we know with the announcement Minister Miller just talked about this morning, if we're seeing reduction in financing for the settlement agency, that's going to just mean that we're going to need to work better together. Il va falloir qu'on travaille ensemble pour trouver des solutions.
And you'll have to work together to find solutions. It's not in silos that we'll be able to achieve this.
Are probably a best practice that I've seen throughout Canada. So this means Francophone and Anglophone organizations working together to offer services, but that are equitable. So that's the difference. We've always been working in silos, and this is partly due to the financing models that we've been imposed on, and this is including the settlement agencies. How many times have I said that we're divided by money, and that is why we're working in silos and we're not working together. So of course, government needs to understand that we need to look at those models and see how we might distribute financing a different way so that we can work collaboratively as communities and better serve our people. So collaboration is key to retention and improves newcomer experience, and it will increase retention rates. So a few lessons learned, breaking silos, I've talked about a little bit. Language matters. So we need to provide seamless bilingual facilities. So this is important because if Francophone immigrants or newcomers come and try to and expect a service, they need to be able to be served in French as well, because that is one of the languages that they need to know to come into Canada. Alors, il faut être flexible et aussi agile.
We need to be flexible and agile. When we work in communities, we have strategic plans that are based on 3 or 10 years, and they're not flexible. Let's be adaptable and have flexible plans. Let's work with collaboration mechanisms that would enable us to progress.
And of course, putting the newcomer in the center. We're often not doing that, even though we say we are. How might we do that? That's through collaboration and partnerships. I don't have that much time. So, promising practices ou les pratiques prometteuses. Alors ici, nous, on voit que quand on a
promising practices. Well, when we have regular dialogue amongst organizations and settlement organizations, this means that we will develop trust amongst ourselves so that we can work better together. Trust is important because if there's no trust, well, then we are only going to be working on problems and we won't get to solutions. We want to integrate these communities in the design of programs to ensure pertinency and I mean that this is not only about online or in-person programs. This is all about hybrid programs amongst Anglophones and Francophones. We need to definitely work on that.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you
If you
so
have
much.
any questions and you would like to connect with me, talk about community collaboration, something that I'm very passionate about, please see me. I'll be here during the conference. Thank you and have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. We have some questions that have come in over Slido, and I have them here in front of me, so I'll share them with the panel based on your upvotes. And I'm going to ask folks to limit their responses to about 2 or 3 minutes. I know that's terribly upsetting to everyone in the room, but it's going to keep us moving today. So the first one is, I'll say in French and English, comment les organismes d'établissement
How do settlement community organizations work together to serve newcomers who are not eligible
so how can
for
settlement
IRCC
and
programs?
community organizations collaborate to serve newcomers who don't qualify for IRCC funded programming? I'm going to actually just toss this one right back to Myriane, because that was a lot of the last part of your presentation.
So, can you hear me? Yeah, okay. So a lot of the question, and this isn't one simple answer, it's a complex answer, and probably I don't have all the answers, and it would probably take a really great open space to be able to work on this together as a group here. But I always say if you can collaborate and know who's doing what in your community, then you have a better success of being able to answer the needs of the people that you're serving. The problem is that we're not used to working together, and we're just starting to work together because our hand is being forced at it. So what we've seen as best practices is in New Brunswick, because they were forced to redefine what it looked like to build an immigration strategy. So it's no longer just a city doing it, it's a region. And what we found is that by working together to develop this strategy in a very co-creative way, for instance, we sit in circle practice and we actually talk about what's going on within our organizations. We build better empathy and understand who's doing what in our ecosystem, and we're able to build bridges and offer those services to our newcomers who need them.
Excellent. Thank you. Our next question is for Siobhan. Does your housing support program, it's a specific question, but I think it'll help everybody to hear the answer. Does your housing support program also provide rent assistance? And if so, what are the qualifications for this? I've heard that government policies around this have changed and that less newcomers are eligible for such a program, or that such a program no longer exists. Could you briefly speak to rent assistance programs?
Yes, we do provide rent assistance. Oh, I sound much better on this mic, I find. Yes, I think so. Lovely. Sorry, just a moment of self-reflection. Yes, we do provide rent assistance programs. The criteria, there is an application process where assessment is based on need as well as various priority groups. Those being, well, newcomers, refugees, single parents, folks living with invisible or visible disability, LGBTQ plus IA communities, those elders or seniors, and a few other priority groups would move you up in terms of consideration. And then we do ask for some form of documentation that asserts that they are identified. They self-identify as Black or African, African meaning Black still, but African descent. Because that is specifically the community that we are serving throughout Metro Vancouver. So for those not from the area, Metro Vancouver is about like 21 municipalities, and inside of that population, that's about 42,000 Black identified people. And again, there's me, and I have an assistant.
Thank you, Siobhan. The next question I'm going to direct to Saifullah because you have already provided us with a concrete example. But maybe we can reiterate, what is the best concrete example you can share of a collaboration with settlement organizations? And how can settlement partners enable your engagement in the partnership through resources or otherwise?
Thank you. For me, if I specifically answer these questions, what is the best example? As a community who didn't have any existence before coming to Canada, we are trying to build a community in Canada. The best example of collaborations is first times, only in 2022, when we established the Rohingya Center in the region of Waterloo, many settlement agencies or other community organizations didn't know about the Rohingya people. So step by step, honestly telling you, for the first time when we applied for a $2,000 fundings, we were rejected so many times because nobody knew us. After that, we keep trying. As a community, we need support. We need to be connected. Our community need to feel that Canada is a safe home for them, because so many people, after coming Canada, they feel like they want to go back to the refugee camps because they feel isolated. So to come out from these challenges, we reach out. As a grassroots level community organization, we reach out to mainstream organizations, government level, and that organizations recommended us to other community organizations or other settlement agencies. That's how we become connected. So now, for example, everyone says housing is a crisis everywhere. So we try to get supports from the government level or provincial levels, federal level, or regional levels. Where the housing supports we get, we always try to support our community. And we help settlement agencies when they face any challenges with the community, we always try to help them. And if any school board or other agencies, they face problems, they always call us. If they don't know us, they reach out to the other settlement agencies. That settlement agency recommend to us. So this is some things we are not only having benefit for our own community, that's helping the settlement agencies, also reducing the burden of the settlement agencies. That's how we can work in the future. So, we all know that the community service is in crisis all over the world, all over Canada. So this is some examples we are trying to help the community and service providing agencies as a community initiative. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm going to throw the next question to Dave. And in the context of inclusive collaboration for collective impact, how can community-based organizations mitigate the challenges of onward migration, so folks continuing on from Canada, while fostering long-term retention of newcomers, and thinking about working with the settlement sector to do those pieces?
Sorry, can you repeat that, please?
What would you say are in the context of inclusive collaboration between the settlement sector and organizations like yours, how can that collaboration work? So how can community-based organizations mitigate some of the challenges of onward migration while fostering long-term retention of newcomers?
Okay, thank you very much for that question. So I think where we sit, what is important is for us to continue building on the relationships with the players in the sector, and also calling on the experts to provide the sort of support that is needed to help newcomers as they navigate and they try to integrate within systems, and to provide the sort of resources that's needed to ensure that these individuals will stay within the community. Now, if you think about it, when it comes on, I give you an example, when it comes on to like the concern about employment, one of the biggest challenges that we're seeing now is that individuals are having a grave difficulty finding employment. And one of the things that we've been able to do at MCC Toronto is really to connect our members to a settlement organization that provides focused work in getting the newcomer up to speed and connecting them with the relevant resources and job opportunities in order to sustain themselves and really integrate within the community so that they can actually stay in the community and really help develop the community as well.
Thank you, Dave. I'm going to post the next question on here, back over to Myriane. And it's, en parlant souvent du collaboration.
We often talk about collaboration.
De manière plus théorétique. Mais quels sont les prérequis ou des critères
what are the prerequisites or the criteria
appelé collaboration? So we often talk about collaboration more theoretically, but what are the prerequisites or criteria for something to be called collaboration? I feel like you've got some significant experience in this through your community labs.
Merci beaucoup pour la question parce que c'est une question importante parce que les critères à la collaboration sont probablement plus importants à la collaboration même
than collaboration itself. When collaboration is successful, it means that the foundation has been set. So you need a trusting network. If there's no trust, if there are issues amongst different organizations, or if there are problems that were never solved. I worked with a community once where they wanted to develop a plan where they'd be unified, but we weren't able to move forward. We had to stop the project because the community had to work amongst themselves so that they could rectify these issues. So trust in the network is probably the most important part.
Because I know that not all of you have your earphones. Trust in the ecosystem is number one. So we do need to work on trust before we're able to collaborate on projects together. And also you need to set up some principles to work together. So what do those look like and how are we going to hold ourselves accountable to them? And principles are often kind of fluff that we pretend to develop and we don't actually really practice them. But what I will encourage is if you can develop some really strong principles for collaboration and practice them and remind it to yourself every time you have a meeting, then you've got something working. If ever you do want to talk about this as well, Sarah in the back from Ignite is a really good example of how they're setting that up right now. And I know because you're just working and iterating and figuring it out because that's what we need to do. Got to start somewhere.
Thank you. And thank you, everybody. We're wrapping up the panel. We have less than a minute left, so I'm not going to move on to another question. There are lots left on Slido. Fortunately for all of us, we have a living library of folks who are from outside the settlement sector and working in community-based organizations and who will be with us for the remainder of the conference. So please come find them. Please come find us. The team from Mothers Matter Canada is here. We're also non-settlement sector or partially non-settlement sector. And we're thrilled to be opening this dialogue and really looking forward to meaningful conversations and maybe some crunchy and tough conversations over the next couple days about how we can do even more with even less, which is, I feel like, potentially the theme of that conference, even though we didn't write that down. So thank you for sharing this time with us. We appreciate and value, and thank you to Pathways to Prosperity for highlighting this important part of our work. And I understand that there's time for a bio break and some snacks now. And so please stretch your legs and re-engage your body with your mind.